was given, I kind of modified it though. Is the rudiments of a captivating CV and cover letter to secure opportunities. Now, I wasn't particular about the kinds of opportunities, so I would talk about CVs in general and how to draft a stellar CV, whether for an internship opportunity in a law firm or a non-law firm. I mean, maybe it could be an accounting, it could be a finance company, it could be whatever, or secure opportunities like scholarships, for instance. Yes. There are a lot of other opportunities that you need your CV for, not just internships or even a job application. So I would basically talk about the things you need to have in your CV, the tips that, should I say, mistakes that people often make when drafting CVs, and certain things that HR, like I've interacted with a couple of HR persons from some of these top law firms, and I hear the same thing. There's certain complaints that they make, certain errors that they found that a lot of us make when we write our application. So my plan is to identify those errors. I would also talk about briefly cover letters, because the main focus of this presentation is actually drafting a proper CV. Then finally, I would show you how to draft a proper, like the rudiment of drafting a proper email. So like the application, when you're applying for an opportunity, you need to have your CV, of course. Some might require you to have your cover letter, but not usually. But then for you to send your CV, you need to send it through an email, right? So I'll tell you the things that you must include in your email, in the body of your email as well. All right, so can I move on, please?
Yes, sir.
Great. So, all right, so I think Godson says Alliance Law Firm. Great. Okay, so we'll go to the next one. All right, so kind of this particular slide, I've divided into 3 parts. The first part is the things you must take note. I want you to take note of before you draft your CV. People just jump into drafting CV. There's certain things that you must do before you even start drafting your CV. The second bit, I will talk about how to build a stellar CV, yes? An acceptable CV. Then finally, I'll talk about the things you need to know about when you're applying for certain opportunities. Now, these opportunities are not restricted to internships now, whether for a scholarship, whether for a grant, for anything. There's certain things that you must take note of when you're applying for these opportunities. All right, so let me just take this one out already. Okay, so what is CV? If it was a physical, because I've done a couple of physical presentations like this, and usually I'll go around the room asking people what exactly is a CV. That's the first question I usually ask. But because so we don't waste much time. So a CV, like you can see on the screen, a CV is the short form for curriculum vitae, which is Latin for course of life. It's an outline of a person's educational and professional history, usually prepared for job applications. Not only, but usually prepared for job applications. And it's simply a personal marketing document to sell yourself to your prospective employer. That's why, because the employer, before they actually decide to bring you on board, or maybe invite you for an interview, they want to see, so they want to first have an idea of who they are bringing, or who they are about to interact with. And the first point of contact is usually your CV, because it is a marketing document. You're basically marketing yourself to get to that, oh yes, I am the right person for this job. I'm the right person for this particular internship position. So that's the basic purpose of a CV. Okay, so I don't know why it is malfunctioning. Then what's the cover letter? So this is a one-page document that introduces one's work history, professional skills, and personal interests. So as we go on, I would also mention, I would show you the difference between a CV, like a CV and a cover letter. A CV is like just bullet points, while a cover letter is more like a letter, essentially. So you say it has a structure of an actual letter, only that it expounds on some of the things you've listed on your CV. It shouldn't be a repetition of a CV, but it only expounds on the essential things that you want the employer or the person you're sending it to take note of when you are making an application. Yeah? So secondly, it is usually submitted alongside a CV. So like I said, it's not every single time that they will ask you to submit a cover letter. In fact, when they say send the application, usually just a CV, because especially the top firms and the niche firms, they receive a lot of applications. I would also like point that out as we go on. So they usually don't have time to start reading the whole cover letter sometimes. So that's why I'm really not putting much. I want to put a lot of effort on the CV, so because that's the new thing you look out for. I'm not saying that the cover letter is not relevant. It's actually also relevant. In fact, some firms will ask you to attach your cover letter, but then it is usually optional. Yeah, once you just say apply to so email. Sometimes sending your CV is enough, really. But if you want to also like, me, I usually have a CV and cover letter too. That's personally. Then its main function is to expound on the most relevant parts of your CV and to show why you're the right candidate. So I think I've said that already. Okay. So now, that before you actually draft your CV, there are two things I usually advise people, especially undergraduates, to do before you even decide to draft your CV, or the things you should be doing while you are drafting your CV or while you are making applications. First of all, you need to live the CV life. I don't know if you heard that description before. Can you guys hear me? Someone trying to ask?
We can hear you. We can hear you, sir.
All right then. So I was saying that there are two things that you need to do before you start drafting your CV or while you're drafting your CV. The first thing is to live the CV life. Now, by living the CV life, you are consciously engaging in activities that will help you build up your CV. As simple as that. So what kinds of activities can you particularly engage in? I think I've been to your campus before, and I know you guys have a couple of activities. So, for instance, you guys have organizations, right? So, if you're not part of an organization, for instance, that is actually actively engaging in different activities, like I would advise you to actually begin to join some of those organizations. And I know some of you can actually be. I was there too. At some point, you don't be shy. You don't want to like involve yourself in anything. You just want to be academic goals. That's all. Sometimes you need to also engage in some of these extracurricular activities to show up yourself, because yes, having good grades is very important. Nowadays, having good grades is actually very important because it just makes the work easier for you. But then that's not the only thing you need to table before when you are making applications. When you get to interviews, because I've been at several interviews, even my interview for Lano Ajayi, apart from my results, my grades, they also ask me, because they saw some things on my achievements and work experience and volunteer experience, and as we go into those details now. And they started asking me questions, things that I did during that time, yes. And they found it interesting that, someone at this level has already done some of these things. So like when you engage in activities by joining, of course, once you join organizations, of course, you'll be involved in stuff. So back in school, I was part of our Mutamo committee. So I was able to, and during that time, I represented the faculty at various competitions, Space Law in South Africa, Price Media Moot in Oxford, and a couple of other national functions too. I also joined a couple of, I engaged in chambers activities. I did a couple of stuff too, like in my free time, although I did it when I had the time to do it. And when it was time for academic work, I tried to strike the balance here. So I would advise you to also join activities, join organizations. Also internships are another thing that you should already be doing, right? So although my first internship was actually my 500 level, but nothing stops from having or from just starting doing an internship at 200 level. Nothing stops you. People will say, the question you might have will be that, I don't have any experience, so how will I get the internship? So if you actually target certain, there are some mid-sized firms, right? Even top tier firms, yes. If you can target them and you can make your CV interest-based, so like there are different ways to draft a CV. You can make it interest-based, or you can make it experience-based. So interest-based is basically maybe when you focus it on a particular, on maybe around a particular area of law or area of interest that you are particularly passionate about. So for instance, you don't have any experience, you've not worked before, you've not done any internship before, but you have taken a course, let's say in intellectual property law, for instance, you are passionate about intellectual property law. So you're taking several courses on intellectual property law, you have written articles on intellectual property law, you have joined the IP club if you guys have in your faculty, and you've done a couple of other stuff around that area, believe you me, like with that CV, you can actually secure an internship. So it's advisable to, for now, like even with whatever you think you have, gather it together, have a decent CV, and make applications for internships as soon as you can, really. Okay, so I mean, and when you get that particular internship, after you get it done, you put it on your CV again and apply to a better firm, and until you keep climbing the ladder. So that's simply how it works, really. Then also engage in volunteer activities too. So when it's time for maybe a program and they need people, they need hands. So maybe for events planning, you get for events planning, or maybe planning committee, events committee, whatever committee, just engage in those things, because those activities actually help you build teamwork, help you build communication skills. A lot of you just like excellent communication skills in your CV. But when someone when someone doesn't understand what you're saying, there's when you flare up, you don't exactly have that same spirit. So like it is from engaging in activities that you get to build some of those traits, and you can confidently write them on your CV. Then finally, there's content too. So you need to develop content. I know not everybody writes, I understand, but they say that words are a lawyer's tools of trade now, and they are very important. Eventually, at least you want to practice that. I'm not just talking about those who are planning on practicing law, because eventually, not everybody will eventually practice law, really. So, but you need to, another way to actually develop your CV is to turn out content, write articles on on things that get you, like interest you, on legal issues, on whatever it is. Just get your pen out there, and like I said, build an online presence essentially. So, like for instance, I want you guys to do this. I do it almost every time. when on your free time, just search for your name on Google. Put your name up on Google. I mean, some people is the person that will come out, apart from Facebook and the like, it's one expert that will first come out. But like it's actually very important to also check and monitor your online presence as well.
Wow.
All right. Okay, so any questions?
Sir, please. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Does anyone have any questions?
Yes, I do, Mr. Young.
Okay. Yes.
Can I
you
proceed?
Can go on, sir. You can proceed.
Yeah, sir. Actually, how can we go about knowing our presence on Google? Like, I don't know, because sometimes there are quite a number of people who haven't written an article, or should I say, let's say quite a number. They're just on social media platform like that of Facebook and Twitter. So try to probably go search their name. The only thing that will pop out is their link to their Facebook and link to their Twitter account. Is there any other means in which these people can actually build up their profile for people to actually discover them?
Like very, very good question. Very, very good question. So I think for me, one of the ways I was able to build my own online presence, one of the first person I used was LinkedIn. So on LinkedIn, just do a thumbs up or just send an emoji in the chat box. I think LinkedIn is a very great platform to start with. Yes.
Wow.
First of all, it's a professional. It's like LinkedIn is actually like your online TV essentially. So I'm going to get to that too eventually as we go on. But like you can actually have your CV on your LinkedIn profile when you fill in the different items. So when you get to experience, you're putting where you previously worked or where you previously done internship. When you get to work volunteer experience, you put in the relevant. When you get to committees or courses you're taking, you basically fill in those things. When you're reading articles online, you can put your articles on LinkedIn. In fact, you can put your articles in LinkedIn post. You can put on, like, there's a particular feature for articles on LinkedIn. You can do that.
Okay.
Yes. So when someone searches for your name on Google, LinkedIn, I think, more across all of the major social media platforms, LinkedIn and Facebook, they have like high ranking SEO. So whenever you search for your name, for instance, you search for my name, one of the first results you will see will be my LinkedIn profile. Before you see LinkedIn, yes, you see my LinkedIn profile. Then once you click on LinkedIn, because like I've gotten messages from people where, so this was my funny story. So I think it was 2 years ago when I was actually doing, I was interning then at Bluefield, and I just go a call, and the person was like, "Oh, hi, you saw my article on LinkedIn." My phone number is on my LinkedIn, by the way. So, when like somebody asked me on LinkedIn, and like it was immediately for his project, and that was exactly what I wrote, exactly what he needed. I think I shouldn't copy and paste, so but he asked me for, he just asked me wanted to get some clarity on as regards. It was about the Kama bill. Now then it was Kama bill or Kam bill. So, and I mean we converted. I didn't know from anywhere, but he actually just got my article off LinkedIn. So I think LinkedIn is one of the best platforms to build a professional to build a professional online presence. Because then once you do that, it will get published with other like outlets like say business day. Like it's also searched for my name to use one of the, I think on the second page, on the first page, you might see my articles on business day. Yeah. So when you push out your content, articles, it could be opinions, doesn't need to be very, it doesn't need to be too serious stuff really. It doesn't need to be always serious issues. It could just be you also like talking about things that interest you. Because when you put them on those high-ranking websites, those platforms, whatever they say to your name, those results will come out first. And I've actually gotten a virtual job because via something like that. Someone recommended me for a job. Then the employer actually searched for my name on LinkedIn, on Google, and eventually my LinkedIn came out and some other stuff, and that's what he went to. That's actually what encouraged him to like hire me. So I'm just sad that, because another topic I like to talk about is LinkedIn. I'm just sad that today, not sad exactly, but I would have loved that we had enough time to talk about LinkedIn. But that's a different class on its own. How to build a proper LinkedIn profile, but you can always go online, check videos, or maybe I would share my contacts with the organizer. So whenever you have any questions, you can always text me via WhatsApp. Have I answered the question?
Mr. Jami, has our speaker answered your question, sir?
I don't think it's available.
I don't think, yeah. So you can continue now, sir.
All right then. Let me quickly rush. So the next thing, so after while living a civil life, you also need to discover your interests. You need to discover people, and you need to discover opportunities. Now, for your interest, I'm very sure a lot of you are confused about what area of law. Let's say that, okay, what area of law do I want to like practice in? What area of law interests me? Or in fact, do I want to do this law at all? Or maybe you are having interest in a different, could be tech, maybe you want to become a tech bro or a tech sis, or maybe you're eyeing finance, you want money. you're eyeing, because there are people, myself, I have a thing for finance. So it is fine, really. It is fine to be confused at this stage, really. Like, there are people even up to after NYC, there are people that are still trying to discover what exactly they want to do. But the important thing is that you should already have an idea, or you should have certain things that interest you already. So, like for instance, for me now, when I was in 300 level, I joined the tax club. So OAU had the second tax club in Nigeria, and then I joined tax club. Then I was like, oh, tax. Then my 400 level, I joined the student finance club. I was like, finance. The 400 level, I joined the IP club. Or like IP. I can't even feel my head. But what that made me understand, it just gave me an insight into these different areas, and I was able to build my my personal profile around those areas really. And there's some of them that I won't say I've left, but there are certain areas that I am still following through with at least so far. So like it's easier when you already identify the areas that you are interested in, because there's some firms that have, especially like niche firms or like niche firms, like some of them have specific areas, or actually smaller areas. Like for instance, now they just firm that all they do is real estate. They're into real estate, they're into insolvency. Some other firms it's just shipping, but that's what they major on. The bigger firms, of course, they do like different areas. But eventually, as you progress, even at the firm, when you just join the firms, you would be rotated sometimes. Usually, they will rotate you in different divisions. But when you start, as you progress, you begin to align yourself. Maybe this person is for capital markets, for banking and finance, or this other person is for shipping, maritime. Yeah, but it's important to also like begin to discover your interest. You don't need to be certain, but you need to like begin to ask questions. like set within. So then you need to discover people too. Yes, you need to network really. Yes, I like going for conferences though. It was the pandemic that messed everything up. So I like going for conferences because I'm training in Lagos. Because I get to meet people, I get to meet the big boys, in profession, and you interact with them. You sometimes collect business cards. I prefer collecting phone numbers so that sharing WhatsApp contact so that we can always contact. We can we can always talk on WhatsApp. You can see my status. I can view your status. You get so because networking actually helps sometimes. You get in putting in a word for you, especially when it comes for internships. You can actually get you can actually, your CV will be very relevant too, but sometimes it helps you get some of those opportunities faster. Let me just put it that way, yeah. So it's important for you to like network with people. It's just for you to know people. Discover opportunities here. So just know that there are opportunities vary. And now that the pandemic has also disrupted a lot of things, there are more opportunities that are online. So you can actually do internships right from the comfort of your home. I hope you know that. So you can do internships. You can even do international internships. Like internships abroad, but right from where you are. A lot of big firms and companies abroad have not even resumed fully. So they don't, like I have a friend that he works with them, the IFC in the US, and he's still in Nigeria here. Yeah, but he's getting paid in dollars. So like basically people you can actually work virtually. You can actually do get opportunities while you are still at home. I think I've spoken a lot on this. Let me check what time is. So just progress.
Yes,
okay,
sir. You can.
Okay, so now let's go into the meat of this discussion. So now this is a rough structure for a CV. Nothing is fixed here. So like you can always add and remove certain things depending on the opportunity you're applying for. So usually the first thing is the header. Then the header I will talk about what it entails. Then the education, then experience, then positions held. Sometimes it's not every time you put it, but usually you have positions held. Awards and achievements, then skills, references, sometimes hobbies. As you go on, you will get to see it in details. All right, so for the heading, please who remembers them? I don't know which set you guys when you wrote your wife. Who remembers Siroma Adekunle?
And
definitely, most of us do, sir. Definitely, we do.
Siroma has finished Waeko. He's looking for a job now, by the way. Okay, so so this is basically the heading of the CV, yeah. So I know a lot of people are tempted to put your flamboyant CV where you have your picture, you have designs and all that stuff. Now I'm not saying that some people might accept it, yes. Some other people it's unacceptable. But this structure I'm about to give you is like the generally accepted structure because I've shown some of these things with like HR that work with some of these things, and they've also reviewed it themselves. So this is actually what most of them like go by. So the first thing is the name, your full name. Usually I put my first name and my last name. I will add their third name, there's no problem. So this is Roma Adekunle. Then your home address. I would like usually I don't put my full address because of privacy reasons. I'll get to that too. Then your phone number, then your email address, then your LinkedIn profile. Now, your LinkedIn. Okay, like nobody. I said ask people to send notify me if they have. I'm coming. Sorry. I ask you guys to notify me if you have an account on LinkedIn. Anybody. So I will know whether what I want to say is relevant.
Yes, I do. Yeah, I have an account on LinkedIn, sir.
All right then.
Yes, I do.
Okay, Khadija.
I do too, sir.
Yes, I do.
All right, Suleiman.
Please, let's just for questions like this, let's answer in the let's just type a message and send to the.
Okay, just type. So exactly.
Yeah.
All right, great. Fine. Okay, so let us go on. And please notify me when my time is running out so that because sometimes I like to talk. Okay. So you can see that this LinkedIn part is underlined, and that's because it has been hyperlinked. I don't know if I can actually share my screen for that. Let me see. I should be able to do that. Let me see. Okay. Can you guys see this page I'm opening? Let me try to. Let me just go on. I would use my words because I actually prefer to show you guys. Okay, so LinkedIn is hyperlinked here. So there's a feature called hyperlink feature. So when you highlight any word and you right click, you see the feature, the hyperlink. When you click on hyperlink, it will give you a box where you can put the link. So basically, what I've done here is that when the recruiter sees this CV and clicks on that Siroma Adekunle, it will take the person directly to my, to Siroma's LinkedIn page. So that's essentially what that does. So because of time, I won't go into details about that. So for Teach, like I said, last name, first name, other names. Me personally, I use first name and last name. That's just my style. Then so there's no like structure as regards that. Then you should also use an active and professional email address. Can you see there's some that see this one here. There's really nothing wrong with some of them before. Something like hot pants now. I'm very sure many of you don't have those type of emails. So but I've seen a particular email that was just off it, and it was used for application. So that's not advisable. So make sure your email address is something distinct, just figures and letters, right? Of letters and figures. Then preferably use the closest address to the firm. Yes, this is something I also when I edit CV. I mean, you're applying to a firm in, let me say, in Lagos, but you are currently in Abuja, and you're putting your Abuja address. I have helped a firm. It was a mid-sized firm. I've helped a firm to recruit. And one of the things that the HR told me to do was regardless of what's on the CV, anybody's address that is not in Lagos, yes, because the firm was in Lagos. Anybody that address that is not in Lagos, I should just discard. Yes. So and I can remember like maybe 2 or 3 CVs that I just had to discard because of that reason. So I think it's also advisable to ensure that the firm that you have at least within the same state or within the same proximity. It doesn't need to be so close. And if you don't have, if you don't have a place yet in that, so for instance, you want to apply to a firm that is in Wari, Abuja, yeah, but you don't have a place in Wari yet. So, but you are sure that by the time you get the opportunity, you'll be able to secure a place. You can also write for that address, you can also write Wari, Abuja, Nigeria. That's it. SUT Abuja. So like this, and you don't really need to go into details writing your full address, home address, because of security reasons. Because your CV could get in the hand of someone else, you get, and you take the address, and nothing bad will happen to us. So like I said, the last tip here is hyperlink your LinkedIn link. So that is for people who already have like a LinkedIn account, and your LinkedIn account, you have completed it, you filled it completely, then you can actually link your LinkedIn page. If you don't have a LinkedIn account or your LinkedIn page, your LinkedIn page is not so, it's still sketchy. It's not decent yet. You can leave that link out. Yes. So let me go next to this. Let me go straight to the next one now. Sorry, I'm trying to. Okay. Resume share. Sorry about that. I'm more used to Google Meet. That's why. There's no playing. I'm sorry. I'm trying to. Play button.
Please, you guys should switch off your microphone. Yeah.
Okay, can you like say 30 seconds? I'm trying to find play button.
No problem, sir. We'll wait for you.
All right then. Let me stop sharing. Okay. It's a problem. Okay, let me stop sharing it. Let me share again. I can't. Okay. Okay, can you guys see the screen now?
Yes, we can, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right then. All right. So let me go to the next one. So personal profile or summary. Now, me, I really don't include this part in my CV because number one, it takes space, and yeah, it takes space. That's why I don't include it in my CV. So, but it's not like so important. It's important actually, but it's not like if your CV is already exceeding one page. Once I'm editing CVs and the CV is exceeding one page, I don't include it, except I feel it is relevant. Maybe the person does not have a lot of experience, or the person's CV is scanty, yes, and you just want to give a short introduction or a summary of what the person is about and the value the person can bring to the firm, then I'll include it on the CV. So let me just read what we have here. So what we have here, Ifeoluwa is a senior graduate of law with advanced skill in legal research. She has immense interest in maritime law, property law, and alternative dispute resolution, and has been engaging in a comparative research on the role of mediation in resolving tenancy disputes arising from the effects of the global pandemic. Ifeoluwa is passionate about practicing law to the very highest professional standard, and she's keen to pick up opportunities in an area of interest. This was like a CV. This was someone's CV I did, like I think that was during the pandemic, and I mean obviously I had to include a personal summary. Your summary shouldn't. It's basically like I have here now. It's usually the part that is written last because you're basically summarizing the entire CV, and you're stating what maybe your level of experience or your current status. So you are a graduate or you are a student of so and so, or maybe you have 3 years experience so and so. First, then you talk about your interest, then you talk about what you plan or what you're about and what you plan to bring to the table when you join the firm. So it basically summarizes your entire CV. Then you're meant to tailor it to the job opening. So I would also mention this at the end of the on my presentation about how you should tailor your application to the particular firm you're applying to. Some people they'll be applying, like I know some people don't even edit their CV. You just send the CV to everybody. So you're applying to a law firm. The same CV you have to apply to a law firm. You have to apply to a finance firm or accounting firm or the PwCs or the KPMGs. That's not proper because there's some words now. For instance, some things that are not relevant, some keywords that you need when you're applying for a firm that you might not need when you're applying for an accounting company or accounting firm. So let us keep it to job opening. Keep it short, yes. Keep it short, simple, and sweet. Then state your current status, like I said, your most relevant skill and experience, and what you plan to bring to the table. Yeah. Okay, so I think I'll just take questions at the end of my whole presentation. So please, you can note your questions now, or you can just type it in the chat box, yeah? Okay, now education. So what we have here is education, Fort Shared University. I mean, from 2014 to 2019. Now, there's like I said, this is not a strict structure. You can always you might have seen different CVs with different structures as regards how you arrange some of these things, the date and the different items. But this is like an accessible structure, right? So education, then you have 2014 to 2019, Fort Shared University, Lagos, Nigeria. Then under it, the degree as well as the person's grade. Now, if you have a decent grade, right, you can actually, decent CGPA, you can actually put it up. Yes, it is something attractive, something that they might actually look out for and want to, like, it might be an advantage essentially. Yes, but if it's not so great, yes, our advice is just omit it so that they don't focus on your CGPA. They focus on other parts of the CV. Yes, so they are looking through a lot of, especially the big firms now and the big companies. They're looking through even with mid-tier law firms and mid-tier companies. Yeah, they're looking to do a pile of applications, a pile of CVs. So there's some things that they might just see, that might just catch their interest, or there's something that might just see, might just like discourage them from that CV. So if the CGPA is one of those things too, right? So you need to also be practical about that. So you can say that. So like I have the structure. You can include dates. Usually I put the date of admission or the year of admission and the year of graduation or prospective year of graduation or convocation. Just make sure that it tallies with. I don't know if you guys experience strike, but it's easier if you know OAU now and the reputation for striking more than thunder. So that affected a lot of people, and so we need to be very careful the way we also wrote out this part of our CV. I mean, you want to try to write it so it doesn't exceed 5 years. I mean, that's how long law is studied for in university, right? In most universities. So that's an relevant thing. So like, just make sure that the admission year and graduation year is because they might actually ask you questions when you get to the interview. So why the gap? Why is there a gap? Okay, so then your institution, then degree, then class of degree and others. Now, teach. You can include both secondary and tertiary school education. Yes, you can actually do that. As you progress, as you gain more experience, you might actually, I mean, after maybe, for instance, for some of you that want to get to the master's, for instance, and maybe you after having worked at different companies, you might not really need to put your secondary school level experience, right? So then items are to be listed in a reverse chronological order. Yes. So reverse chronological order means reverse chronological order simply means starting from the most recent item down to the oldest item. Yeah, so whether your education, whether your work experience, whether your volunteer experience, you need to list them from the most recent one down to the oldest one. Then you might also include key courses, maybe some of relevant courses, like you're applying to a firm that is big on IP now. I mean, intellectual property, that is. So you can also include IPL as a course, then maybe put a grade, what is called, I mean, if it's maybe a B or an A, advisable, if you had a B or an A. Now, this thing I'm saying, this one I'm saying now, you might not really, they're not on the CV because they're not too relevant. But when your CV is scanty, there's still a small things that you can actually include in your CV just to show it up, just to put it, to make it look compact, essentially, right? Then achievement, you also include achievement, extracurricular activities. We'll get into that as we go on. Okay, so work experience. Let me see. Yeah, so what we have here, work experience, 2019, legal intern, Bloomfield Law Practice, and Ikoyi, Lagos State, Nigeria. Now, you can see that this person did not just stop there. This went on to identify their tasks and key achievements. So the first thing there is attended court sessions and client meetings. So worked with various teams on complex corporate matters while drafting legal opinions, drafted legal documents, including court processes. Now, when you're applying, especially when you already have an internship experience, it is usually like a good ground for you to impress your impress your recruiter, because with that opportunity, you need to I can sit down and remember the things that you did and put it in very nice words. Like the person attended court sessions and client meetings. You probably just went to court with your principal or with your supervisor, and you guys could see my screen. Can you see my screen, please?
Sir, we can see your screen, sir.
Okay.
There's no issue at all.
All right then. So I mean, for instance, maybe you did. My first internship was actually at a small firm, and it was my February level. And my work was simply to do research. So they were into what's it called now? Insolvency. Yes, it's insolvency. So I had to do a lot of research. I had legal pavilion was like my best friend. So I was always doing research on legal pavilion for the briefs. I was also following the lawyers to court, and there were times that I actually had to file actual bills you get in court. So with all of that, I can actually put it into a single sentence saying attended court sessions and attended client meetings. Yes, I was able to, I also part of some meetings, right? So a meeting with certain clients and with them. I was there, I took down notes. So you don't need to write all of these things in, just put in very simple English. When you now get to the interview, yes, I'm doing it. So when they're interviewing you for the opportunity, they will not get to ask you questions like, okay, you said you attended court sessions, or maybe you said you drafted legal documents, including court processes. Can you just tell me one of those legal documents you drafted and what you learned? You get, so like this is a common question that they actually ask at interviews, at law interviews. So, and also I would advise you to, I mean, when you are there to, like, this is an OTV, by the way. I didn't edit it to include certain things I would want you guys to also see. You should also work with numbers. So, for instance, let me try to be personal. So when I was at the Abdul, there was this transaction I would do, and of course there's some things I cannot say, and the things like that I couldn't even know back then because it was that confidential. But I knew they shared with us like certain key figures. Yeah? So I knew that the deal was actually worth about $6 million or thereabouts, about $6 million, and it was a loan facility. It was a facility essentially. So there's why I put it on my CV to include that $6 million. I was like, I worked with the corporate finance team to advise the client on a $6 million debt financing. You can see how I'm not lying. You get, that's what I did, but I just put it in posh language, and it's stuff that you have, and whenever they see that this kind of thing on your CV, they will actually be fascinated by it and want to know, like, how can someone that's not working yet, you get, how does this person know this much about equity finance, debt finance? Okay, let me ask them about it. So, and when they ask you about it and you now show competence again, it just makes you stand out really. So these are things that people don't take note of when they're CV. You just write in them, so and so. You don't talk about what you did during your time there. So yeah. Then the next and the other one is content writer, Vanguard Nigeria. So what said furnished periodic news articles and opinions which were published in print and online. All right. So sorry, thanks to write some down. I don't like using. Okay. Now the key tips I have here for you guys is that work experience is not necessarily paid or white collar jobs. Like that's one misconception I also hear around. So when people think that you must have carried suitcase and you must have one mother shoe or one crazy suit, for example, the work experience. Not so, really, not so. Like even an apprenticeship, yes, could be work experience. Maybe your first writing gig, really, could be work experience. And sometimes, although I really don't, I don't support this, unpaid internships really. I think that I don't like the idea really of unpaid internships, especially when it's not virtual, when it is physical. I don't like the idea. But even if the internship is not paid, it is still work experience because of the because you actually put in that work environment, and it just, it doesn't need to be paid, essentially. It doesn't need to be white collar job. Yes. Just so why you can show what you actually did during your time at that outfit, it's work experience, right? So likewise, also your item should be listed in a reverse chronological order. You should make use of figures in explaining some of the tasks, like I said earlier. Focus on your measurable relevant achievements and not just your duties. Yes. So like I said, it shouldn't just be about what you did. So it should majorly be about your duties, like what you did and stuff. But it should also be about what your achievements were. So during your time at the firm, what were you able to do? So maybe you joined. Maybe you worked. So a person that maybe works with an online platform. So maybe you're able to, during your time, you're able to see that the company had maybe 20% increase in its audience, or maybe the readership or the number of readers increased because of your influence. Yeah, so like you should also highlight those key achievements so that I'm telling the firm indirectly that I have done this with this firm. I can actually do something similar or even better when I come and join your firm. Yeah, so like these are things that you must take note of too. Yeah. Focus on your measurable, yeah, I've said that already. So always make use of action verbs in describing your tasks. So like created, analyzed, implemented, yes. So if you look at this one now, you can see I said attended course sessions, worked with various teams, drafted legal documents, furnished periodic news articles. So yeah, you need to make use of verbs to just show that you're actually doing. I don't know. There's a way you have to please the psychic of the person reading. Yes, to know that yes, you actually did something during your time at the time, or during your time at whatever outfit you do. Right? Okay, so are people still following?
Yes, sir. We are following, sir.
Following.
Yes. So work experience. Okay. So let me go to volunteer experience. Yes. So now the same structure. Yeah. So you have the year volunteer experience year. Then this person has I participated in the charity and outreach work with I Am Foundation, the charity organization, 17 kids at the Morales Babies Home. 2016, as a member of the logistics committee of the 2016 TEDx Dada, I helped to organize certain aspects of the event, including sound, decoration, and lighting. So, of course, volunteer experience is it's not limited to it's usually community service, yes, but it's not limited to community service really. So let me show you. So the organizers of this particular Zoom conference call, yes, could actually add this as volunteer experience. When you work on in the planning committee for a conference back to school or for a program, you can actually add it as volunteer experience. Now let me tell you why volunteer experience is very relevant. It doesn't just show that you are passionate about your community or you are passionate about helping people. It shows that this person can actually work or has worked with a team, and that's very, very important when you start working, because usually the group you guys in teams, so they give you a particular project, so they give you a particular thing to do, and they group you guys in teams to solve those problems. So let me, like one of my last internships, I'm going to, we were 5, and usually what they would do was that like live cases, they'll tell us they'll give us maybe 2 of us. One person should go and research on this area. One group of persons, should go and research on this area, and the other group should research on something else. So when you guys are done, you would draft like a final, just a small legal opinion. Then one of you will present it. So basically, you are going to work as a team. You don't get to work as a team. So that's another thing that volunteer experience actually gives you: the teamwork, communication skills, and some of those other skills that a lot of you guys like mentioned on your CV. So let me go to the tips here. So volunteer experience is not necessarily unpaid. Yes, it's funny how you can actually have paid volunteer experience. Yes. So you can see the tricky part with work experience and volunteer experience. Well, work experience is not every time it's actually paid, like you have it in unpaid internships. But for volunteer experience, you are not also, it's not every time that is unpaid. So like I have a friend that's also that was in 2019, I can't remember. But there was this time he went to Rwanda. He applied for this UN UNESCO, I can't remember, one UN outreach, something like that in Rwanda. And he got in, and I mean, the stipend was about, but it was small, not small, but it was around, I can't remember, I think it was around $20 per month or so. I can't remember now, but he is this special company that's passionate about society. So, I mean, in that instance, it was actually volunteer experience because they needed people, they needed hands, and they got people from across the continent to get, but they paid them. But that's the still work. That's not work experience exactly. That's actually volunteer experience. Yes, because of the kind of the nature of the job, nature of the role he was actually going there to do. It was more like cleaning up. Okay, so it includes outreach, volunteer roles, NGO works, event planning, club activities. So like sometimes people ask me questions like, oh, I mean, I can't put my club activities in, although there's a part from memberships now. But there's some other things that you do, maybe while being a member of the club or being a member of an initiative or chambers. But you don't know where exactly to put some of those things. Yes. I just put it under volunteer experience. Yes, I can put them under volunteer experience. So also the items have to be listed in a reverse chronological order. I'm taking my time. Okay. you know what the chronological order is now. So from the most recent, actually 2017 is before 2016. So the most recent down to the oldest. Then you should also use figures in explaining some of the tasks. Okay, so let me go next. Let me go straight to the next one. Now, positions held. It should be positions held. Sorry. So so this is where your leadership experience comes into play. So this person has 2018 head of logistics, FedEx Dada, Fort Share University, Lagos, Nigeria. 2018 director of research, Inner Chambers, Fort Share University, Lagos, Nigeria. So basically, you just itemize some of the leadership roles you've held, and you can also, just like we did for work experience, you can also itemize your most relevant achievements, maybe your most relevant roles while you were holding this position. Now, so the structure, date, role, name, or task. Yes. So like I mentioned, a task. So you can actually identify, and maybe for instance, now you're able to grow the club's membership by, I like the number, so maybe by 30%, or you're able to organize the biggest conference in your school. You're able to organize one of the most impactful conferences, with which saw about 1,000 students, something like that, or 300 students, 200 students. You can also itemize so far it doesn't make a CV go beyond one page. And I'll get to when you can make a CV go beyond one page as we go on as well. So use key figures in explaining of that. So yes, I think I'm using that there. Okay. Now, awards and achievements. So so sometimes usually from the beginning, you might not really have a lot of achievements or awards. So when you engage in some of these activities, club activities, chambers activities, and likes, you actually engage in this, you do stuff basically. You begin to attain some of these achievements. So, for instance, now if there's a Mukama committee or your debate committee, and you engage and you join, and I mean you have for your first gig, and you maybe at least become second runner or professional, or you will win it. Yes, that could actually be itemized under this section of the CV. So let's see what Roma has on the CV. So awards and achievements, 2019 finalist, Yali Network, West African Network Ghana. 2019 runner of ICC International Commercial Innovation Competition, Paris, France. 2016 finalist, Inner Chambers Debate Competition, Fort Share University. 2016 certificate of participation, ICT Training Institute, Akwa Ibom, Nigeria. Blah, blah, blah. So basically, you can actually, so sometimes people just write achievements. Sometimes if you have awards and you want to merge them together, you can also put them. And certifications can also fly for achievements. So if you've gotten like a certificate of service, for instance, or a certificate of participation, or a certificate of completion, you can actually include it on in this section. Sometimes maybe you've done a lot of online courses and you just want to have a special place for your courses. So you can actually, after all the achievements, or maybe without all the achievements, you can actually have a section for certificate. Yes, where you actually put the certificates you've actually gotten for completing courses or for any other stuff, essentially, that is relevant to and relevant. Okay, and you can see ICT here. And you might think that it's not really, like, if your CV is kind of, if there's still some space, like an opportunity like this ICT training, for instance, could actually still be relevant. It shows that you will most likely know how to use Microsoft Word. You know how to use PowerPoint like I am using right now. Yes. And by the way, by way of giving you guys a tip, like knowing how to use PowerPoint is like it. Usually you are like the go-to guy whenever you are in a team. So maybe whether in school or even at work, when you are particularly good with PowerPoint, because eventually after everybody does their research, it's you that we have to get those things together. So you're usually like a very important part of the team. So it's one thing that has actually helped me to do my internships, even during my participation in club activities. So they're like, oh, Tayo knows how to do PowerPoint today, so let's do Tayo. So like you are like the go-to person just for stuff like that. So I would also, by the way, advise you guys to learn how to use PowerPoint. It's not, it's not like it's not compulsory exactly, but when you're working at times, they would actually sometimes they could ask you to come and make presentations, or they'll give you a research and they'll just tell you guys, okay, can you guys, after you do your research, and you type out your whatever it you want to do research, come and do a PowerPoint presentation for the team or for the firm. Yes, and so you need to like know how to use PowerPoint. So having ICT training, a certificate in ICT is still relevant. Even for a law firm, when you're applying to a law firm or applying to a finance company or whichever company. But when your CV is exceeding a page, which I will still expand on as we go on, sometimes it could actually be excess. So you might not really need to include it. Yeah. Okay, so that's for awards and achievements. Let's go to skills and references. So this skills pattern, a lot of people have abused it a lot. So you see people who put things that they don't have, they will actually find out, like especially when it's a very good HR interviewing you, they will find out that this person doesn't know what to say. Yeah, so if you're saying excellent skill in Microsoft Excel, and they ask you to mention two functions that you know in Microsoft Excel, I am looking. So like you need to ensure that you don't like you should ensure that you don't lie, and you should put stuff that you can actually defend in case you get the opportunity. So this person has proficiency with key Microsoft tools. So that's PowerPoint. I see when you say key Microsoft tools, I see that PowerPoint, Microsoft Word, and what's it called now, and Excel. Then commercial awareness. So commercial awareness is like a skill, though. It's a skill. So commercial awareness is simply understanding the business of your trade. You get so the business side of law, the business side of anything that you are doing. You get you know what is happening in the business world. So yes, so I mean, and relevant for a firm that is big on corporate law, big on commercial law, and big in banking and finance, capital markets, and like. Then highly critical and analytic with efficient research skills, exceptional leadership skills, strong drive for knowledge, and an ability to learn fast. So yeah, so some of these things usually they're kind of redundant too. I find it redundant. Like I don't like when you're just starting out, let me I think let me just make it general. So I don't like discourage people from using it too. When you are starting out, it's good to actually identify your skills. It's very important to actually list out your skills, relevant skills, yeah? And stuff that you can actually defend when you get to the interview. Then I think also have an extracurricular activity. So sometimes you can also write memberships. So you can also write you can itemize the clubs or the chambers or the organizations that you're a part of. So this person is part of Intellectual Property Law Club, Kochi University, Lagos. Also a student member of the Standard Institute of Arbitrators. So by the way, you can actually be a student member for free of this Chartered Institute of Arbitrators, United Kingdom. You get so just go online and search for student member CIERB UK. You get it's one of the first results you see. You get you just sign up, and it's for free for students. So and that's for people who are interested in like arbitration or in AGR, right? So it could actually be an added advantage for you guys. So like tips for this one. For skills, start with your technical skills, yes, like Microsoft Office skills, programming and research. So if you are applying to a law firm, like when technical skills include using some of these key apps now, like Microsoft tools, essentially. When you're applying to a finance firm, so using apps like of course Excel, use apps like SPSS, and some of those other data analytics apps. Okay, so to save some space, you can omit the reference or just include available upon request. Well, I didn't mention about reference. So reference is actually another item, another heading, or another section of the CV where you list out people that could actually, or sorry, when you list out a referee, you know what a referee, who a referee. Yeah, so someone that can actually put in good word for you if the person is called. I don't know if, I don't have, I don't think I've ever called, I don't even put the person's details. I just put available upon request, like I can mind on my, as you can see here, available upon request. That's all I do. But usually it's where you put the persons that, and usually don't put it's not right to put your parents to, except maybe you are working in your parents' company or you previously worked there. But usually you can put your lecturer, yes, someone who actually knows your side, your school side, and someone who maybe you previously worked with, maybe you previously interned with, or you previously done an apprenticeship with. So you can actually do that. So just write the person's name, the person's email address, person's name, the person's role, and person's company, or if it's school, person's position in the school, maybe lecturer or senior lecturer or whatever. Then the school, name of the school, then you put person's contact. Okay, so other things you can actually include co-curricular activities, that's schools and participation. Yes, so I think I've come to the end already. Yes, okay. So that's the end of the first part, because like it seems like there are 3 parts. The last 2 parts are not this long, but I will try to like rush things up. If we can't finish, I'll just maybe send like a voice note. I don't. By the way, I'm not sharing my slides though. By the way, please, for intellectual property reasons. Okay, so this is the CV essentially. Can you guys see the CV on the screen? Just say yes, or just send a message on the chat. Okay, if you can see the CV, just say yes or something. Okay, so while you're doing that, so these are general tips. Nobody's saying anything new. Okay, someone has said something finally. At least one person is listening to me. So these are general tips that I have for you guys, from what we've said all along. Number one, it's preferable to have your CV at 1 page. You can see how this person's CV is. Just 1 page. Now, especially for entry-level opportunities, from the consensus of like I've kind of gathered from what I've seen across board, it seems like most HR personnel would want you to have your CV to 1 page because of, like I said, because of the volume of applications that they receive every time. So sometimes they could be reviewing up to 350 CVs in a single day. Yes, and some of you will have like 4 pages or 3 pages, yes, of CV. So it's advisable to just try to ensure you keep it to 1 page. If your CV what I usually do is that the what's it called now? The page, when I go to Microsoft Word, when you go to page layout, you can actually adjust the margin. So there's this narrow margin I usually use. If you look at the CV now, look at the margin is very small across board. Basically, it's an tactic to actually to write a lot more, but still within 1 page. And I usually use a font size of maybe sometimes 12, sometimes 11. So between 10 and 12, basically, just to make sure that it's not so tiny. By the same time, it also contains a single document. Now, use very simple font types, really, because you don't need to start the whole decoration thing. It doesn't having a decorated CV is not, that's not what they're looking for actually. It's not like the content of what you have. So when you have two colorful CVs, some people actually don't like it. Some people just put your CV aside. So when you have 2 colorful CVs, or maybe you are using fonts that are making you look as if you are doing graphic design. That's not what the purpose of a CV is. The purpose of a CV is to market yourself. To tell them these are the things that I actually have done, and this is the value I can bring to the table. So use basic font types. Save your CV in PDF to maintain formatting and send it as an attachment. So there's another thing that people do. You just after you start your CV, just save it and just send it to the person. No, try to export your CV as PDF. I hope you guys know how to do that. So like after saving your CV, you also need to export it as a PDF file so that the structure, the designs, the structure, the format, not designs now, the format you actually use remains stable. even when they send it to a different TV, I mean, it's a different computer, because the HR will be seeing it on his or her own computer. Yes. So if it's a Word file, the Word, you might be using a different version. So you might just scatter the whole thing and just make it look up. And that might actually be a reason why your CV is just rejected. There are a lot of reasons why people's CVs get rejected when you apply. Sometimes not because you don't. Some people actually have nice CVs. The problem is just that the presentation is just quite poor. So I want you guys to take note of that. Ensure that your formatting is consistent. Yes. So if I see the CV too, you can see how the years is, they're all on the left side. Yes. There's some of them that is like a range. So 2014 to 2019, and some of them are just a single year, 2019. So they are all, it's all on the left side here. You can see this where these items now start from. It's all on a single line. They're all on the same line. Yeah, so your formatting should be very consistent, so that it looks decent, basically. The alignment should be very consistent too. This ash background I put here is not compulsory. Yeah, I just put style it. That's all. Just to itemize it so that it doesn't look, because the words, the font is actually small, so it doesn't look together. It doesn't look just disjointed. Okay, let me go on. So title your CV in a simple way. So like I have here, first name, last name, CV. So you don't say this CV now. You can also write maybe Siroma Adekule or Adekule Siroma CV. That's all. You get, instead of just putting, some people don't write CV or my CV as the name. Sometimes, personally, for me, it puts me off. So I cannot imagine how like other HR people like you when they review CVs like that. Yeah, so just look professional. Basically, look professional. Then use the hyperlink feature to link to your LinkedIn profile. So if you need, you can actually check online to know how to use hyperlink. It's actually very simple. I'm very sure some of you know how to use that feature. Yeah. All right. So as regards your address, use the one close to you. I mentioned that already. So list each item in reverse chronological order. I've said that already. For scanty CVs, you can include the dissertation title. So you can include your project title. So if your CV is scanty, after writing your grades, after writing your degree, you can write. So what is the topic of a project, for instance? You can include that. Tell when it's relevant. Yeah, I'm sure it's very relevant. So the relevant courses too, online courses, hobbies. Yeah, I can include obviously if your CV is scanty. Those people that are just starting, maybe those people that don't really have much experience. You can actually, like I said earlier on, you can actually have a CV that is either interest-based or experience-based. Interest-based being that you are surrounding your CV around your, you put your CV around your interest. So maybe courses that you have taken in an area of law or in a particular area, articles that you have written in that particular area or in those particular areas, and those interest and those things that will just can portray your interest in those areas. Then experience-based CV is that type of CV that where you start to list out your work experience, your volunteer experience, your leadership experience, or so I say positions held, and the likes. So these are the differences. Okay, so make use of keywords to write a CV. Yes. So this part is another. It's also another class on its own. So keywords are simply relevant words that are related to the area, or related to certain areas or fields. So you're applying to law firm, and maybe if a law firm that is into a lot of areas now. So there's some keywords that should be on your CV, like law, for instance. Yes. Maybe if it's a corporate finance, maybe corporate law, corporate finance. So like throughout your CV, you can strategically insert some of those keywords. Now, if you look at this one now, you can see, okay, under work experience, you can see worked with various teams on complex corporate matters. What exactly legal opinion? So legal opinion is a keyword here. So like, why keywords are also very relevant? Apart from the fact that when you're HRC, it's also kind of enters the psyche. There are some companies that actually use a computer. So instead of the HR looking through it, first of all, there's a computer that actually like sees through applications. Apparently, they're forgetting the name of the computer now. I don't know if anybody knows. I've actually forgotten the name. I've done a class on this separately. So like, there's actually a way to beat those computers to get by including certain keywords. So because they want to see if you actually have, apart from your structure, your design, you get your format, not design. You just want to see that you have certain keywords you get on your CV. You get so yeah, so it's just advisable to have keywords in your CV. Okay, cover that sample. So this one, I won't really talk much on it. Hello? You have a question? Next.
Hello, sir. Can you hear me?
Okay, I hear you.
So, maybe once you are done with the cover letter sample, then I'll ask my question directly, sir.
All right then. All right. Okay. Or maybe we'll just make it after. I will soon be done. Let me. I don't know how long, but I know I'll soon be done. I'm almost done with my slides.
All right. No problem. Once you are done, sir. Once you are done, sir.
All right then. All right then. Thank you very much. So for this cover letter, I don't have the sample. So I will just read and explain certain things. So I want to go and detail that the CV, because the CV is actually the most important thing. Yeah. So I'm hoping that you guys already gained one or two things from that part, the first part of the class, or first part of this presentation. So now let's go to the cover letter. So I've let me remove this one. So give me a sec. You know why this is. We're gonna put this one here. Let's put it up here. Okay, so I don't like this. Okay. Can you guys see it now? Yes. No worry. Let's go on. So this is a cover letter sample. Now, I've divided it. There are two parts. I cut this document into two. So you'll see the first part. This is the first part, and the next slide is the second part. So like I said, it's a letter. It's essentially like it's a letter format here. And usually they're not strict rules too, but this is just like a basic way to write it. And like I said earlier, the function of the cover letter is simply to elucidate on some of the items you identified on your CV. So yeah, on your CV you couldn't talk much, you just listed them out. On your cover letter, you're now bringing out some of the most relevant parts and saying, these are the things that I've actually done. Because this was what I was able to do during my time here. And this is the type of value I can bring to your firm or your company if you hire me. That's exactly what you're saying in the cover letter. So that's why it's accompanying the CV. It basically supports what you're written in your CV. Once again, like I said, it's not necessary. Usually, it's not necessary, but I include it. Whenever I make application, I include it. All right, so you can see what you have here. You have usually it should be the addresses, but you don't have enough space. So me, I work with. I try to format whenever I'm drafting it. I'm making someone edit the CV. I try to use as much space I can get. So if I can, if by removing usually in the left side, on the right top right, you're going to write your own your name and your address. So because I know that I'm in need of space, I just remove that one. Your address is already, your name is already at the end, and your address is already on your CV. So why mentioning it twice? So yeah, we have the date. You have the date here. Then you have the address. So first of all, the person. So you're writing to a particular person you get in the firm. So sometimes it could be the principal partner. Sometimes it could be but generally it's to the human resource manager or to the recruiting manager. Yes. Then the name of the company or name of the firm, then the address, then the basic letter, structure of the letter, essentially. So dear sir or dear ma. Then the subject line for your application. And usually it's usually the same subject that you use on your mail when applying, right? So I have application for the 2021 internship program at DO HQ Partners. So my name is Siroma Adekule, and it is with great enthusiasm that I write to apply for a legal internship role as a prestigious firm, DO HQ Partners. Finding this opportunity online, as well as the firm's reputation in commercial and corporate law, have both informed my decision to make this application. My knowledge, skills, and experience match the requirements for this role, and I think you would agree. Now, the first thing you are meant to do, so there are different styles. Funny how there are 3 different styles in writing a cover letter. So this is actually the strict general way of writing a cover letter. there are other stylish ways. There are other like intriguing ways to write your cover letter. So for those ways, so personally, I actually help people to review their CVs. I help people to review their cover letters, write cover letters. So this one, and I charge for it. So people are not paying me for that one. So I will not go into this for that one. But but this one is actually generally accepted way for of drafting. What's it called now? Drafting cover letters, right? So the first thing you do is to introduce yourself. Yes. Your name. Then talk about what you are, why exactly are you writing. You're writing to apply for this role, this internship role. It could be an NYC position. It could be a graduate training position at the same, right? Then you can also talk about like how exactly did you find the opportunity you get? So maybe you found it online, or you are writing in response to the opening on their website or their social media platform. Then usually you can also include the fact that the firm is reputable. Like you have here, if it's a tier one law firm now, maybe ranked by say Legal 500 or Chambers, or Chambers. There are different legal indices. Yeah, so those platforms actually rate this law firm. So you can actually identify. You can point out the fact that you are applying to the firm because of that. Because it's a reputable firm and you feel it's a platform for you to gain some relevant experience. Yes. Then the last line of the first paragraph is you're saying that you're trying to sound confident that I've seen the role, I've seen the requirements for this role, and I'm telling you that I match each and every of those requirements. Or at least I match majority of those requirements. So you're sounding confident, but you're not sounding arrogant in that sense. So you need to strike the balance between sounding confident and coming off as arrogant. So that's really the first paragraph. So you're basically just an introduction that you make in the first paragraph. Okay, so the second part of it is the cover letter. So I'll read this paragraph and I will just explain anything I need to do. I need to explain it. So I'm a final year student of the fourth year University Lagos State, the CGPA of 4.01 out of 5.0. Now, like I said once again, if your CV is nice, you get if your CV is like quite good, you can actually include it in your if your CGPA is quite good, you can actually include it in your cover letter or on your CV. But if not, it's just better to like avoid it now. So that's why they can actually focus on your other experiences, your other experience that you've gained, maybe work experience or the other things that you've itemized on your application. Right. So let's go on. So far, I have participated in a number of extracurricular activities, including local and international competitions in South Africa, London, and Austria. These experiences bolstered my flair for legal research and procedure. So now you are mentioning things that you've done, and you're also stating what you've gained from those experiences. You're saying that, you've done this, you've done that, but you're also stating the skills, the knowledge, and the things that you've actually gained. So it's actually a tactic that you should do. So after the introduction, you're not telling them, you're a final year student. You're not telling them what you are doing or what you've done so far while you're in school. Yes. And in mentioning those things you've done, you're also telling them the skills you've gained. Yes. Now, also, these experiences have bolstered my flair for legal research and procedure. They have also polished my ability to solve problems even while under pressure. So in this way, I have already mentioned like almost 7 different skills and competencies essentially. Then you can also talk about your interests. So after talking about your activity in school, you can actually expand on that, by the way. But take a lot of space. Your cover should be within one page as well. After talking about your experience in school, you can also talk about your core interests. So like what are the areas of interest? Remember I said you need to like develop you need to begin to identify the areas of law or whatever that just catch your fancy your interest, right? So my core interest, this person's core interest lie in corporate law and finance. I have grouped this interest with my internships at reputable firms at blah 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 blah. Most notably, during my time at this firm, I was privileged to make. I want you guys to listen to the fact. I was privileged to make bold presentations at meetings, engage in a variety of legal drafting, attend industry-defining client meetings, and court sessions. Okay, sorry. So basically, like you are saying that you have interest in this area of law, and you've actually done one or two things. So it could be internship, it could even be an article you wrote. Or you did some, you basically did some of those things to groom those interests. And now, you also mentioned the fact that, during your time at the firm, you were able to make presentations, you're able to discuss, engage in legal drafting, you're able to engage in science. So basically, you're basically telling your recruiter that, I am actually competent enough to get to carry out or to undertake this internship that you have open at your firm. And usually, these are some of the things that each job description actually comes with. So they will tell you that, they need someone, even for internship. So some law firms saying they need someone with a good sense of legal drafting. I don't have to at least do basic drafting. Maybe it could even be drafting of drafting of a letter, or maybe drafting advanced now, maybe drafting of an agreement. That one is advanced level too. So it's just very important to identify the things that you've learned during your experience. So then I also run an article series called Corporate Talks, where I have written. So this is just talking about the person self. Then the final paragraph is when you now talk about why you want them to pick you, why you want them to pick you for this opportunity. So the person said, I strongly believe that my aforementioned skills will be of great value to your firm. Being a vibrant corporate and commercial law firm, I'm positive that securing this opportunity with Deal HQ partners will offer a positive path towards my personal and professional aspirations, and also presents me a platform to make some impact. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to your response. I think that's as clear as possible. Yeah, so you are basically trying to tell them that, you are particularly interested in their firm, and that's the reason why you want to join the firm, number one, because, of course, it will be of great value to your career trajectory. It will impact your career, of course. But at the same time, you're also bringing some value to them. Yes. Then you look forward to maybe their response, or maybe for an interview. Then one regards the person's name. Okay, so applying for opportunities. This is like the final part before the final part. Okay, so certain things that I want you guys to take note of whenever you're applying for opportunities. So whichever, whether internships, whether scholarships, whether grants, whether any kind of opportunities. Now, I want you to take note of two things: searching and applying. When you're searching, to make your searches easier, I think I would advise you guys to go for, look out for websites of opportunities websites where you can actually find some of these opportunities. So I don't know if you guys know opportunitiesforafricans.com. They actually share different kinds of opportunities actually, whether it's the contest, essay writing competitions, internships, but it's not just law, though. It's not just law, it's different. Then there's also My Job Mag. There's also opportunities there. There's also legal pages too, by the way. So like I said, you can actually just on social media, on Twitter, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, and on Facebook, you can actually just search for legal pages. So you can see some of the previous opportunities that we posted, and some of the relevant articles that we've also shared. So whenever you're searching for opportunities, you can also check some of these websites to find any ongoing opportunities. Yeah? Then download opportunities apps like Glassdoor, Indeed, and LinkedIn. Yes. Then research on each company. Yeah. So sometimes some of these companies at least put up applications on their social media pages, on their website. So if you're not following them, for instance, you might not find out. You might not know what's going on. Yeah. So it's really important for you to also check on their website, check on their various platforms. Then network, like I said earlier. So network online, network physically, like, and engage. So if you're targeting a particular firm, engage their people, engage their employees, engage their associates. Keep close friends, so that when there's an opportunity, they can actually like call out you so that, oh, guy, it's time for you to apply. Just quickly check the application to you, and hopefully you get a response. So yeah, networking is very important. Then, like I said, opportunities is not restricted to internships. Opportunities include scholarships, freelance work, full-time roles, training, volunteer opportunities, and the likes. Then rank well online. I think someone asked me that question earlier. So you also need to be conscious about your online presence. You need to know what when like I said, after this class, I want you guys to go on. I mean, just go online and search for your name and see what comes up. You get and see what people are saying about you online. Yeah. So I said also target mid-size firms. So like, don't just shoot a shot at the top firms yet. Target mid-size firms too, because of the competition. Even though mid-size firms also get a lot of competition, but it's just important for you to also like shoot a shot everywhere. Really, don't put all your eggs in one basket. All right. So then in applying the body of the application mail, I'll show you like I won't go into details. I'll also just give an overview. It's important for you to introduce yourself, yeah. Then and state the purpose of the mail, and also reference your CV. I'll show you an example as you go on. That's like last thing we'll talk about. Then attach your CV instead of typing it out. Yes, people do that stuff whereby you just type out your CV or type out your cover letter. You attach the CV, and like I said, you save it as a PDF file. You export as a PDF file, yeah. Understand the job requirements before sending your application and prepare well. Now, you need to like look at, especially when those opportunities that would ask you to, that would list most of the opportunities, they would list what they want from the candidate. So it's important for you to actually read through the opportunity, the requirements, understand what they want, so that you can be able to tailor your CV to match those requirements. It's very important. And you need to prepare well as well, because I mean, if they call you for an interview, you need to know what is in your CV. So they could ask you, oh, you said you did this. Can you talk more about what you did during your time at so you need to prepare well as well. Then when you don't get a response after a given period, send a polite follow-up mail. Yes. So some of you, I know you guys don't like it happened to me. There was eventually I got the opportunity. There was a time I applied to, and they didn't reply my mail. And I just after a week, I was there for a week, they didn't reply, and I sent a follow-up mail, a respectful follow-up mail, and eventually I got a response, and they were like, oh, that's sorry, they missed my mail. Yes, and I can actually resume. And so they. Yeah, so sending like a follow-up mail is also very important. Sometimes like they receive a lot now. So sometimes and they're human beings, so they can make mistakes too. So it could be another reason why some of you don't get responses. So it's also advisable to send in a follow-up mail. Okay, so before I take questions, you don't need issues. All right, and let me just stop here. Let me stop here. So guys, thanks for the invitation once again, and I'll be available to take your questions at this moment. Any questions?
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. This is such an enlightening session, and I hope everyone has gained one or two things on CV and cover letter drafting. And I'm very sure we will all have a good turn of our cover letters. We can now build up our online presence, and our LinkedIn accounts to be